Cyber briefing for Monday, the 17th of July. Hope you all had a good weekend, raring to go for the week ahead. Google has removed the Swing VPN Android app. It appears it has been exposed as a DDoS botnet. So a researcher actually uncovered this in June, and I'm not totally clear when Google removed the app. However, if you are using the Swing VPN, otherwise known as Fast VPN Proxy, be aware that it is a front for a DDoS botnet, so strongly recommend getting rid of it. There are other VPNs. One of the things to bear in mind is that there are a lot of dodgy VPN apps out there. It is a little bit like playing whack-a-mole, trying to keep on top of them all. So whilst I am not particularly or not at all in the game of recommending any software over any other software, strongly recommend you make your own decisions about these things. But I would say reputable paid for VPN software is much better than free VPN software, smaller free VPN software. I mean, this particular VPN, a piece of VPN software had more than 5 million downloads, and actually had quite a good rating. 4.6 stars, I think, as an average rating. But also bear in mind that those numbers can be manipulated. And the sorts of people who are busily building botnets are perfectly capable of manipulating those figures. However, if you are one of the people who's got this particular one, get rid of it. Get something more reputable. Even if you have to pay a little bit for a VPN, for one of the bigger named VPNs, it's not a lot of money, and compared to the amount of damage that can be done by using malicious software, it's really worth it. So I came across an interesting article on Bleeping Computer that is from some researchers in Germany, in the University of Aachen. They have been studying Docker images. And they have discovered that a very large number of Docker images on Docker Hub leak authentication secrets and private keys. So their research was they've analysed nearly 340,000 images from Docker Hub and also thousands of private registries. And they reckon that approximately 8.5% of Docker images contain sensitive data such as private keys and API secrets. The article from Bleeping Computer makes a really good read. It has extracted some of the data from the research paper and presents it in a very readable way. It shows that, for example, private keys, 53% of private keys that were found were SSH private keys found in etc. SSH. API secrets are spread more thinly, but do include places like the Nginx and Mozilla, var, web, HTML, the usual sorts of places where information does get stored. It shows also that users of Docker Hub tend to have a greater number of exposed sensitive pieces of information rather than those using private registries, and that they propose that that's probably due to the fact that people that can go to the trouble of setting up a private repository actually probably understand the security of these things a little bit better. So the upshot of this is that you need to be if you're using Docker Hub, or you're using repositories, be aware that some of the things that you may be relying on may be very easy to compromise, given the fact that their private keys are potentially extractable. If you are writing and uploading and basically providing Docker images either via private repositories or via Docker Hub, it pays to spend some time understanding how to sanitize those images before they're uploaded. So it's kind of two-sided recommendation there. One being, please check that you're not inadvertently sharing things like, stuff like API keys and especially private PKI certificates, once shared, are an absolute pain in the arse to deal with. Especially the whole of PKI as an architecture relies on the private keys remaining secure. If they aren't held securely, as soon as they are compromised, then that effectively breaks the whole chain of trust for that particular certificate and any downstream stuff from it. API keys, again, if the API key is required, if it's not properly protected, then basically it's as good as useless. So so that one, I think, is worth being aware of. If you are using Docker, have a look, see, make sure that any things that you've got don't contain data that you would prefer not to have been spread widely. And then finally from me, something interesting in the healthcare world. In the UK, it appears that a popular diabetes app has had a technical outage. Now, there's no indications at the moment that this has been due to any cyber activity. However, the security of apps, and quite frankly, the security of the people using these apps is absolutely paramount. And it does appear that this particular app, according to both BBC and the Daily Mail, has had some outages, and those have caused actually potential threats to the lives of the users. So diabetes management software, long gone are the days where diabetes sufferers in general were forced to estimate insulin levels, try to work out how much in the way of sugars and carbohydrates they were ingesting, and make regular injections of insulin to adjust the blood sugar levels and maintain them correctly. These days, monitors can in real time show you what your blood sugar levels are, and there are even some systems that will inject the right amount of insulin using small pumps and so on and so forth. So it has revolutionized the lives of people who are sufferers of diabetes. However, if it's all computer controlled and those systems keel over, that leaves the individuals in an absolutely terrible state. So the thing that I don't think has come across in this particular article is that, all right, so we've got a risk that if this stuff fails, it puts people's lives at risk. Well, if that's the case, regardless of if it's an IT failure, coding failure, or a cyber attack, it doesn't appear from the information available that there was sufficient resilience built into the systems behind this. You would expect a system on which somebody's life depends to be, zero downtime, and to have been architected with that in mind. But it doesn't appear that's been the case in this situation. So there's little you can do other than perhaps lend your voice to the pressure on the organizations responsible for running these things to get them stood back up, and then take a serious look at why they left themselves in a position where their systems could fail and put lives at risk. And I think also then on our side, if you are coding or working in healthcare systems, it is absolutely paramount to consider both cybersecurity and resilience. It goes back to the sort of data recovery kind of things from years ago. Well, what's your recovery time objective? Well, the answer is zero downtime, zero data loss. It can be done. It isn't necessarily cheap, but that isn't the point. So yeah, anyway, that's all from me for today. Hope you have a really good Monday, and I shall speak to you all again.